Hey everyone, welcome to Smile Girl, Don't Be Nervous. I am Juana, I am the mom.
And I'm Esperanza, I'm the daughter.
And we are Smile. We thank you for your patience in getting the videos uploaded. It has been crazy. Anthony has been doing some big things. He bought a new car. Vroom vroom. So excited. So proud of him. It's like his first real purchase. And at first when you look at the car, you're like, I don't know that he would pick that. But then like you see it and you're like, oh yeah, that's totally him. Yeah. So that was a fun time. So it's been a crazy time out here in the Simmental household. Remember to like, share, and hit the bell for notifications for when our episodes do drop so you don't miss one when they are uploaded. Spoiler alert warning, we will be talking about the House of Night series, written by PC and Kristen Cast. They are a book series of 19, 21?
We don't know.
Somewhere around there. I really need to get that number down. Good Lord.
You say that every episode.
I know, and I'm like, I'm going to write it down.
We'll write it down.
And then I don't. It's on my to-do list. Anyways, they are a series of books mixed in with novellas and the fledgling House of Night, the fledgling handbook. And they are vampire fledglings. They don't always make it to be adult vampires. And they go through this finishing school kind of to teach them all of the lessons that they need to learn. They have dark daughters. The sons of Erebus are the warriors. How they interact with the humans. There's lots of really good lessons on there, which is why we have so many quotes from this book series. So that's just kind of a rundown of the series. The spoiler alert is because we do talk about situations that happen before the quote and situations that are happening after the quote. So if you have not read to Untamed, stop, go back and finish all the rest of the books, finish Untamed, and then we'll go from there. Mm-hmm. So this particular quote is from Untamed, page 90. The context of this quote says...
Well, you gotta read the quote
Oh,
first.
yeah, the quote, sorry. So the quote says, I say that sometimes we can learn much from the young. Do you agree with that? Just right off the bat?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so, too.
Well, so... me and Anthony used to get in trouble for... teaching teachers.
Yes.
We used to get in so much trouble for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So, the context of this quote is Darius, who is a Sons of Erebus warrior, who happens to also be with Aphrodite, who has volunteered to cover his mark, because, which is about pride and solidarity in being grown. Who is also young and newly marked, is volunteering to do what most vamp guys would refuse to do. Okay, so going back a little bit, when they are in Tulsa, right? They're located in Tulsa, and they have their House of Night, like, school, okay? And they have, like, kind of a wall around it. But the humans think that they tend to stay segregated, okay? What they don't realize is one of the rules of the House of Night is that if you are going to go outside of the House of Night campus, you have to cover your mark. Okay? And that is a way to not put anybody on a fence, not to, make it, bring harm to yourself, especially if you're going off campus by yourself, and you're not around, like, adult vamps, like, you are supposed to cover your mark. Covering your mark for a Sons of Erebus warrior, though, is like, it never happens. That is not a thing to do. So they're getting ready to go out and mingle amongst the humans after Neferet has waged war on humans. And so they are like doing some real sketch shit, right? Not that they're going out to do sketch shit, but they are like, on high alert. They're like super defensive. They're trying to figure out like what they're walking into. Of course, Zoe and her nerd herd, they are wanting to go out and be like, no, like this isn't like what it is, kind of thing, and kind of just calm everybody down. So Darius is the only Sons of Erebus warrior who is willing to step up and cover his mark knowing that he's covering that pride and solidarity of being a son of Erebus and being a full adult. Right? So he's covering that up, and Darius says, protection of my people is more important to me than misplaced pride. Which I think a lot of people could learn a lot from. 8, who is another Sons of Erebus warrior, says this line as a result of Shekinah asking what her response to Darius's request is. Darius is volunteering to cover his mark to escort Zoe and her group to the Street Cats. Okay, so Street Cats is kind of like Casper's Humane Society. They are a no-kill shelter, but they really work in creating programs in order to get their cats adopted, and so they focus strictly on cats, which is perfect for the House of Night, since a lot of the House of Night familiars are cats, right? I also want to apologize. I don't know. I'm taking some new allergy medicine. I don't know if I'm getting sick, but my voice is a little crazy.
She sounds mucosa.
I know. I'm on mucosa. I'm so glad we have the diffuser going. You can kind of see it in the camera going there. I'm like, dang, tonight I'm going to put some like oregano on my chest and get all this shit out.
Well, I'm making dinner, so.
Yeah, so we're going to do some sketty.
Well, something like that.
It's going to have lots of
stage. It's going to be more of a goulash.
Are we on a stage? Okay. Anyways.
I think we are. No, we have a tie-in system.
Yeah. So that is the context of the quote that we're going to go into. This particular article is found in the 2005, volume 35, number 5 issue of Nursing, titled Young Patients with the Wisdom of Ages by Ashley Whitlow, RN, BSN. So this particular article was super short. It was a one-pager, and literally, I don't know, Anthony, if you could zoom into this, it's like literally just a one-pager. Yeah, like the reflection.
Yeah.
So this, it was very striking, though, to read what was in this. Just to give you some background on this particular article, Ashley, is her name? Yeah, Ashley works in a place where they do post-transplant patients.
Okay.
Some with cystic fibrosis who have received lung transplants. Okay.
Okay, I was thinking like kidney transplants.
Yeah, no, lung transplants. Okay. So she cares for patients with severe pulmonary diseases. And sometimes those transplants do not take, right?
Right.
So sometimes they're there, they do well, sometimes they don't, but you are dealing with juveniles who are receiving these transplants, and they're going through life and death situations.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that gives you a whole new perspective on life. And I already think that kids are inherently tied to the wisdom of like the universe.
Right.
Me personally, like that's what I think. I think babies see ghosts. I think they play with angels. I think kids are more prone to communicate with the other side. I think that they are seeing things. Like, I think that they...
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's my... Oh my gosh, why are you calling me out? I think that they...
Because I thought I was tripping. That's why I was calling you out.
I think they're more prone to being more open to the other side.
Yes.
Right? Talking to the higher power, receiving those messages. I fully think that
is a thing.
Is a thing. Yeah. And I also think that I love working with teenagers because they are some of the most honest people that you will ever speak with.
Yes.
Like, ever. If you get into that trust level with them, like, they will tell you everything and how it went and who was there and who said what, and and they have,
but all you need to do
hearts.
is you just got to get that trust.
Yeah, and they have the biggest hearts. They want to help everybody and see everybody do good, and you just have to get to that. Like, it takes a minute but you have to get to that level in order to get that.
But once you get there, you're good.
Yeah. I have been lucky enough to, have some of your friends and some of Anthony's friends, get to that level with them, and I just know so many things and get to really interact with, and it's so refreshing to me, because in the adult world, like, you're just like, everybody's jaded and everybody seems to have like their own motives, and kids don't do that.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, like, we just want to be
just
okay.
here.
Yeah, like experiencing all the things and having fun and experiencing those real raw emotions, and it's amazing. Anyways, I digress.
Fuck that. Absolutely fuck that.
I think it's so refreshing. So Ashley works with these kids. So on top of all of that, you have these kids going through life transforming situations, right? And so they will be coming up with some major points that you have to really take a pause and really think about. Man, this is like some deep shit.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so of course we got to start with definitions. Every single article. So the definition of sage. Okay, because she calls these kids sages. And there are two different definitions, and one is a profoundly wise man, especially one who features in ancient history or legend, and two, having, showing, or indicating profound wisdom, young wisdom. Okay? So Ashley Whitlow is a staff nurse at Ochsner Clinic Foundation in NOLA, so I think that's New Orleans. New Orleans, yeah. She cares for post-transplant patients, some with cystic fibrosis who've received lung transplants. Okay. Respect your okay, so one of the tips here, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so there's 6 tips. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Okay. The first one is respect your patient's self-awareness. This is huge for me, considering I just had a situation with this. And it's if illness has been her constant companion, ask what works for her at home and adapt to her ways as much as possible. When you can't, explain why.
Yeah.
Okay. I think in the healthcare field, for me, this is huge. I think for women, it's a bigger issue than men. And I'm seeing that more and more as I'm having to go to the doctor more and more. I have had some health concerns come up recently, and so I'm having to go through lots of different doctors. And it is fucking wild to me that when you're like, okay, well, this is happening and this is happening, and the doctor's like, no, that's not right.
What the fuck you mean it's not right?
You're like, what? No, like, I'm telling you, like, this is happening, and this is happening, and this is what it feels like. And he is like, no, that's not what you're feeling at all. What you're feeling is this. And you're like, no, like, that's not even remotely close to what I just said.
Yeah.
So, really listening, and how often do we do that with kids, too? That's not what happened.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of doing this too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're telling me a story and you're like, and this is what happened, and this is what happened. This is when we first started learning that you had POTS, right? And I'm like, nah, she was totally huffing the hairspray. I know it, because I've done it too, like, not that I was huffing, but like I was, back in the 80s, you had to have your hair like way high with your feather, and they tried to do that with my straight hair. Fun time.
Yeah.
So there was so much hairspray in the bathroom with the door closed, no vent going, and I'm like, whoa, guys, you can't see anything, I blacked out. And so I thought that that's what happened with you, not realizing when you're like, no, Mom, like, I was just sitting there and I went to get up.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a thing. But at this point, we didn't know POTS was a thing.
Right.
I'd never heard of that, didn't know what was going on. And so you ended up getting in trouble with that. Yeah. So had I taken the time to really, like, be like, okay, like, what exactly happened?
Yeah.
Like, and really ask those questions.
And, like, I remember you like, making me tell you the story over and over and over again.
Yeah, because I'm like, if it changes, it's wrong. She's lying.
Yeah.
But it stayed consistent. It was consistent the whole time. Even years later, you still tell it, and it's still consistent.
Yeah.
So the second one is be yourself. A patient who faces hard truths can spot a fraud. If you're competent and for real, you'll earn her trust. And I think that is why a lot of adults don't like dealing with teenagers. Right? Because
we can tell you're fucking wrong.
Yeah. And adults don't take that well, as you know. Can you explain, like, what a couple of situations that would happen at your school?
So I can't remember any, like, specific one.
I remember one from Anthony.
Yeah. The only one that I can remember, like, fully is... Oh, I shouldn't have said names. I'm so sorry. Is my PE teacher when she was substituting for my class. Mm-hmm. And I called you because I had to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And I still got detention from that. Like, well, okay, so here's the story. So
like, start from the beginning.
So, I was in my sociology class, and we had a substitute that day, and we weren't supposed to... We weren't supposed to have our phones, but I had a 504 plan to where I could have my phone because of health issues. So
a 504 plan, for anybody who doesn't understand, is kind of like an IEP, but different in IEPs and education. A 504 is more of a behavior plan, and so you get concessions if you have, like, health issues or mental health concerns, or something that goes along with education. They kind of tie together, and it's a 504 plan. It's a federally mandated thing. The schools are required to follow whatever you come up with in the plan, because you meet as a team, which includes, like, the counselor, the principal, the parents, the child, and then the teachers. So that plan is formulated with the agreement of everybody there at the table that these things have to be in place, or these special concessions need to be made. That's what a 504 is. If you don't know what that is, or your child needs one, reach out to your special education services department in your school district, and they can get you hooked up with that. Anybody can get one if you have documented concerns, whether it be from a counselor or from a medical doctor or whatever, and then they can get you special concessions for your classroom behaviors.
Dude, you nailed that.
Okay. Thanks. Can you tell I'm used to advocating for those?
Yes. So, I had to use the restroom pretty badly, and I was on my period. And so I could feel myself needing to change. So I asked my teacher, I was like, hey, like, can I use the restroom? She was like, no, you can wait. And I was like, okay. So I waited about 5 more minutes and then asked her again. She told me no. Waited about 5 more minutes, told me no. So I got up and left in the middle of class with my phone in my back pocket, and she grabbed me. And
dude, your school really had an issue with grabbing people.
Yeah. She grabbed me and told me that if I was going to leave, then I could leave my phone there. And I respectfully told her to fuck off. And no. So I continued walking out of the classroom. I went to the bathroom. I wasn't even like, and I did vape at that time, so I understand like how that sometimes is a concern. However, I was legit needing to go to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. Like, mm-hmm. And I called my mom while I'm sitting on the toilet peeing, and I was like, hey, here's what's going on. She's like, okay, hurry up, get back to class. And I was like, great. So I hang up with her, and I finished my business, washed my hands, went back to class. Before I could get into the classroom, that specific teacher was outside waiting for me, and she proceeded to tell me to give her my phone, and I told her no. And so she was like, if you don't give me your phone, I'm going to call your mom. And I was like, great, I'll call her for you. So I called mom. This teacher snatched my phone out of my hand, and I was pissed. So she's like, I'm going to talk to your mom. I was like, have fun with that. So they're talking. I walk away for a second, and I think I walked, like, down the hall to, like, the school store. And I come back, and she's gone. And I was like, this bitch just took my phone. Right? I was like, oh, hell no. So I start flipping my shit, and I finally find her, and she was back in the classroom, but, like, not our classroom, like, in a different classroom. And I was like, can I have my phone back? And she was like, yep, and you have detention. And I was like, for what? Like, so I call Mom. She tells me what's going on, that I can keep my phone, but I still have to go to lunch detention.
Right.
I was like, whatever. I'll go to fucking lunch detention. Whatever. And then I proceeded to go to lunch detention, and she proceeded to tell me how much of a good student I was.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
What? Like,
yeah, what she didn't understand, in her defense, was she was a substitute, and substitutes aren't privy to 504 information, which is wild to me. I don't know why you wouldn't need to have 504 information for a substitute teacher, so that you know what concessions need to be in place while somebody else is teaching your class. Because those concessions don't go away when you have a different teacher.
And like, I think that it should be in your lesson plans.
Right.
Hey, this student needs this and this and this. Or this student is allowed to do this and this and this.
Right. Right.
It doesn't need to be a separate meeting or anything like that.
Right.
It can be in your lesson plans
right.
that nobody else needs to read.
Yeah. And so there was a definite, like, communication gap between there. And so that was when I kindly informed her that...
I was not kind. That's why she's looking at me. I was not kind.
And that was, when I kindly informed her that, part of your 504 was that you needed to have access to your phone at all times, and you needed to have access to the bathroom as many times as you needed to, because you were going through so much water at that point.
Yeah.
As a result of your medical issue, as a result of the POTS, that, you had to have, like, some crazy, like, 108 or 180, like,
I think
fluid,
I was supposed
120,
to have 120.
Yeah, fluid ounces of water per day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're in the bathroom, like, 10 to 15 minutes every time, and it's not because you're in there fucking around.
No, I legit had to pee.
You generally, like, legit, are having to pee. And so she didn't understand that, and so I made her understand that. The reason why you had detention was because you didn't say it respectfully.
Yeah.
Right? And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, you are absolutely right. She should have been more respectful. She should have been able to advocate for herself, to be like, hey, like, this is what's going on. This is what I need. This is part of my 504, but you didn't do that.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's why you still had detention. And so that learning how to advocate for yourself. But also, knowing, like, respecting your students' self-awareness. You know what you need to do. You know how, what needs to be in place for you.
And there was a few teachers that, like, I had in high school that you didn't need to ask to go to the bathroom.
Right.
If you had to go to the bathroom, you got up and left class.
Right.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a waste of time and a waste of learning time to stop the entire class for a student to ask her to go to the bathroom.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that brings us to, circling back to the be yourself. You can spot a fraud. Knowing that those intentions were genuine, you can be open with those people. Like you were real close to the security guard. Mm-hmm. Anthony was real close to his history teacher. Mm-hmm. And that was because you could tell that those were genuine people and not like, oh, we're here to just tell you what to do. Like, and then those were the teachers that you guys fought with the most.
Yeah.
Right? One particular instance was Anthony, I don't even remember, I don't remember him taking a psychology class, but they were talking about a psychological study that we had talked about, like, throughout the whole, I think it was a nature versus nurture, I think is what it was.
That's history.
But it wasn't history, because Anthony was telling this particular teacher that he knew the study that he was talking about, mm-hmm. and how he was saying the study wrong, mm-hmm. because this was one particular one that we had talked about since forever. Like, we still come back to this study. Yeah. And Anthony was telling them, like, no, like, that's not right, and this is, like, what that particular study was saying. And so they ended up getting into an argument, and he ended up getting kicked out of class and got detention, So, of course, that's when I get the call, so then I come in, right?
Poor mommy, her school calls.
And, you know, I get the Miss Simmental, we're going to come down. I'm like, okay, which one is it? Just so I have an idea on, like, what I'm walking into. Like,
Yeah.
and so that was, you know, when I have conversations with the teacher, I'm like, hey, like, we know this because, you know, I'm a psychology major. I know, like, what's going on. We have talked about this. We've talked about this for years. And so he was just trying to explain to you that there are other things that were discussed in that study as opposed to what you were saying. Mm-hmm. Kind of like what we do here. We only discuss certain things, but then I always link the article so that you can read and see the other things that are discussed about in the study.
Well, because we also want to see everybody else's point of view. We always try to step ourselves into other people's shoes to see the other side.
Right, right.
And teachers, not always, I'm not going to say always, but sometimes only teach one side.
Right.
Instead of teaching both sides. Or teaching students how to look at both sides.
Right. And I know that's part of the issue with being a teacher, you know, is you have to, like, follow a curriculum and you have to follow the rules and all of the things and test for the, you know, teach for the test instead of teaching for actual testing, which is why we're losing a whole lot of teachers. It's a whole different subject that I won't get started on because I'm super passionate about that. But there are certain things that they're supposed to teach, and I think once the conversation starts getting away from that, I think they get freaked out because what if the principal walks in and we're having this discussion, you know? But what I think they fail to realize is
it's part of life.
That's where kids, they want to learn.
Yeah.
They want to learn those things, and they want to see, like, I see these, like, crazy stories that come out of history, like in a previous episode that we had done with one of the comfort women, right? The comfort women. And that was part of history. And I'm like, dude, like, if history was about, like, stories like that, like, I would have been super more involved in history. But I intentionally took government classes in high school so that I wouldn't have to take history classes.
I loved my history.
Like, I just don't, there wasn't, kids will learn something if you can get them drawn in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And without having those conversations to, like, experience the different sides, then that makes you come across as inauthentic and, you know, like, not real and not trustworthy.
Right. I had this one teacher, and I'm going to spill names because I love him. Mr. Brack.
Y'all started out rough, though.
Yeah. So me and him definitely started off rough because I was in a advanced history in Cheyenne and then moved back to Casper. And was placed in a remedial class for history. And I was like, look, like, I've already learned this. I've already done all these projects. I'm not doing it again. Because why do it if I already know it, you know? And so me and him used to butt heads pretty strongly. And then when we moved back from Seattle, he was like, look, like, we need to buckle down and get this shit done. I was like, did he really just, he just, all right, you're cool. Like, you have to, I'm not going to, okay, wait, let me explain this. You have to come down to their level, but not talk to us like we're children.
Right. There's a medium level.
Us at where we're at.
Yeah.
You can't talk to us like we're 5.
Right.
But you also have to, like, you can't talk to us like we know what the fuck is going on because that's why we're in school.
Right.
It's because we don't.
Right.
So you have to bring it down.
And each kid is different.
Yeah.
Each kid is different. So I'm not going to talk to you the same way I talk to Anthony.
I'd cry.
Because you guys are 2 totally different people. I can talk to Anthony and tell him the most realest shit, and he was like, all right, yeah, okay, yeah, I see that. I tell you the same thing, and you're a fucking mess.
Yeah.
You know, I talk to Anthony, you know, the way I talk to you, and he's like, why are you talking to me like I'm a child?
Right. Yeah, and it's just because we're different.
Right.
And we need different things.
Right.
And so once he met me where I was at, I was like, okay, let's do this. You know what I mean? And he even cheated the system to help me graduate. You know what I mean? Like, because he knew I knew what was going on. And he knew that I knew that curriculum, so I was okay. Right. I didn't need to prove myself.
Right. But I think you had already proven yourself, otherwise he wouldn't have done those
Right.
extra concessions for you, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you guys could have conversations about, like, what was going on in the projects that you had done at Central, or not at Central, I'm sorry, McCormick. Because McCormick had gone through those things, and I hate to say this, but Cheyenne is further along in schooling than Casper is. And so once you've gone through and you've covered all of that stuff, it's definitely...
And like, I didn't need to do like the projects. I literally just had to have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. And so much can be learned from just conversations.
Yeah. And even if I didn't, I'm so sorry.
No,
if I
good.
didn't want to do a project that we were doing like in class, I would just have to look at him. We make eye contact, and he'll be like, "Talk to me after class."
Yeah, and I think that is part of. It's so important to be yourself. You know what I mean? You have to authentic, and not everybody is everybody's cup of tea. No. Right? Not everybody's going to be able to walk into a room and sit down with a kid and have a one-on-one connection with them. I can't even do that. And I'm really good at that.
Yeah.
But I can't even do that. There are some that I just can't reach. And I'm like, I can't. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm not everybody's cup of tea either. Like, maybe everybody's shot at whiskey.
I wouldn't even say... I'm somebody's shot at tequila. Okay?
We
having fun.
I'm more of a vodka girl myself.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, you just have to genuinely be yourself, because a kid can spot bullshit a mile away. 110%. And it doesn't matter how old they are.
No.
You know? You can fool a kid for only so long.
Yep.
So that being real with them is really important. So be consistent is number 3. So keeping your word and sticking to a solid routine provide much needed security. There is that kids strive off of structure.
I love structure.
And
I love a good routine.
Yeah. And Anthony, we learned that the hard way with Anthony as a parent. Because my schedule is everywhere all the time, doing 6 different things.
And he can't do that.
And Anthony cannot function with that. And so we had to have, okay, here's bedtime, here's breakfast, here's where we get ready, here's where you're watching a movie while I'm taking a shower because I'm a single parent, right? And then we're running errands from this time to this time. You know, so you're in the car, so bring something to do. I'll pack you some snackies. And then we come home, and here's your nap time. And when it's nap time, I'm like cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, doing errands, making phone calls, doing paperwork, you know. And then when he wakes up from nap time, then that's when we're doing this and we're doing that. I mean, he was very structured, and he had to be that way. Yeah. Because when he didn't follow his schedule, he was a dick. He's still a dick that way.
And if you're not on time with him,
oh my God, you get the calls. Where are you at? You're always late. And why didn't you leave earlier?
Yeah.
Why are you always late? And I'm like, dude, you've had almost 21 years of me being late. You should be used to this by now. Yeah. But I'm usually between like 5 to 10 minutes late, and then usually no later. Usually, except when we have to go to the mountain, because then I'm like a half hour late.
At least.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just the thing. And so that consistency really, there's no surprises. And I think it's that stability part of, okay, I know this is going to happen, and we're okay. And you get to be more open in a safe environment.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know that you can always come to me, because as much as I'm going to freak out, I'm still going to be there. I'm going to overcome that. I'm going to freak out for like the first 2 to 3 minutes.
And then we're good.
And then we're good, you know? Then I can come down, and then we can have a conversation about stuff.
Yeah.
But you know that coming to me.
Yeah.
Right? And so you just have to prepare for that first 2 to 3 minutes. And then we're good. Right?
And I'm not really like structure needed. You know what I mean? I can, as much as I love a good routine, I'm like, oh, well, this is what we're doing. Okay.
And we're moving on to the next thing.
Yep. Like, I'm just along for the ride. Even if I'm riding. Like, even if I'm driving, I'm along for the ride.
Right. Right. Okay, so number 4 is involve the patient in her care. Offer choices when possible. Being involved in having your vote of confidence gives her a sense of control and preparedness for discharge. Now, I realize that this is a medical article, but this is very easily switchable to, or applicable to life, students, classroom, work, coworker. I get along with the employees that I supervise. Like, we have a new manager that was hired, and 2 of my guys, out of the 3 employees that I have, 2 of my guys are like, he's not my boss, you are. And it's because, I'll call Justin and be like, hey, all right, I know you're here. I have this customer, and this customer, and this customer, and this customer. And this is what they're needing. Boom, boom, boom. Roof leak, window seal, door hinges fixed, and HVAC. Okay? Yeah. Here's where we're at. Can you do all 4 of these people in one day? Or do I need to change your essays to another day? Like, you tell me what you would like me to do. I don't want you to be overloaded. So you tell me where you're at, what kind of day are you having, so I know how to schedule this. And he'll tell me, Lana, I really can't, I can't do the roof leak and the window leak because it's raining over here, so let me shoot over here and do these other 2. Let's switch those roof leaks and window seals to the next day and see what the weather is. Cool. Let me put those up. Or he'd be like, you know what, it's sunshiny, I've been to this unit before, I know exactly what they're talking about, it's going to be a 5-minute fix, go ahead and put all 4 of them on one day. But they have that schedule flexibility in order to tell me what I need to do to help them. Mm-hmm. Because then on the back end, I know what to tell my customers. I'm sorry, it's like super rainy where you're at, I guess, because they're in South Dakota. I'm in Casper, right? Like, I don't know what the weather's like. I guess it's super rainy where you're at. Yeah. We can't do, roof leaks or window seals when it's raining. Yeah. Okay, yeah. And then that opens up the door for the conversation that way, too. So really being open and involving everybody into the discussion really works in my favor at my work. Any of the works that I do, right? Whether it be serving, whether it be dispatching, whether it be managing, whether it be, running the program for the state, like, that communication is imperative in order to get everybody kind of on the same page. So it also brings in ideas as well, right? Like, okay, well, like, yeah, I had this idea. I'm always on the phone with Pat, mm-hmm. right? Grandma Pat, like, hey, I really need you to help me sort out my brain. Like, this is what I'm trying to do, but I'm not quite sure how to get it to, like, this point. So, like, can you walk me through, like, what would it look like for you? Like, if I tell you what to do this and this and this, what does that look like for you? And then her talking it out, and I'm like, okay, so I gotta, set up the name of the program. I gotta find a place. I gotta, figure out what people to invite. I gotta figure, and then I can work through it step by step. But sometimes I struggle with how to get between.
You're working backwards.
Right. Because I'm juggling so many different ideas that I can't focus sometimes.
And I can't do that. Like, I can't. And me and you have had to work it out together where I have this idea, and I have this.
Right.
Because I can't do that.
Right.
It's just something that I can't comprehend in my brain.
Right.
I'm so sorry, guys. My belly button ring is.
So, that is the involving the patient in your care. Like, that is super important. It doesn't matter if you're talking about a work relationship or a medical relationship or a coworker situation or even just like a regular relationship like mother and daughter or, mother and son or dad and son or husband and wife. Like, including those people into the care of the relationship is super, oh my God, this girl is just going to drive me, is important. So, number 5 is listen. Listen, Linda, listen. Instead of relying on a well-practiced monologue, pay attention to what your patient says and doesn't say. I think this is super important. And the first thing that pops into my mind for this is relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Like personal relationships. So much is not said in communication, right? So body language and what is not being said is like some crazy percentage. I want to say like 80, 85% of the communication that's happening. So it's really hard. That's why there's so many like miscommunications via text.
I fucking hate texting.
Right? Because it's so much easier to just pick up the fucking phone and have a conversation. Or, and I know like I'm totally being old school here, meeting up with somebody to have a conversation.
And I like Snapchat for the reason that you can send videos. You know what I mean? Like, so you can see my facial expressions, so you can see my hand movements, so you can hear the tone of my voice, so you can see the words coming out of my mouth.
Right.
FaceTime.
FaceTime.
Love FaceTime.
We were doing Marco Polo. I've done Marco Polo in a couple of my past relationships where communication was an issue. And I think that's super important to actually see what is being said and also see what's not being said. Yeah, I really want to go to the amusement park. Are you saying you don't want to go to the amusement park?
Really? Because you couldn't look at me that whole time you were saying it. Like,
yeah, you know, like...
That's that body language. And you just have to watch.
Yeah, and that's super important. Like, we communicate, and I think empaths, it's not power as much as it is that we're so attuned to those minute switches.
So, literally the other day, I freaked out on you because you were using punctuation.
I know. Yeah.
Because that's just something that is a body language to me.
Right. Normally I'm like 2 or 3 exclamation marks after every single sentence. And like 3 texts in a row.
Yes, and I hate periods. Because I'm like, oh my god, they're mad at me. I hate 1 exclamation mark. I need at least 3.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And like people that I am, like this person that I'm in a relationship right now with, we're having problems because of other issues, but he knows when I'm upset because I use a period. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
well, and generally when I'm upset, I'll use periods too.
Yeah.
But I was driving.
Yeah, you were driving.
I was driving,
working.
And I was on the call. I was on a call on my work phone, and I'm trying to message on my personal phone, and I'm just like space, like send. Yeah. Like, cause
and I had no idea about that. You know what I mean? So I thought I was mad, but she had a genuine reason for that. Mm-hmm. So that's a mishap in text.
Right. And so she comes in, she's like, "Are you mad at me?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What?
No. And I'm like, are you sure? I don't know what I did wrong, so you're going to have to tell me what I did wrong.
I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
it's just
no idea.
It's just a miscommunication over text. That's why I fucking hate texting.
Right. And I think your generation struggles with that, and I think that's why your generation doesn't know how to communicate, is because they communicate solely via text. Mm-hmm. Right? Or Snapchat or whatever. And sometimes those Snapchats don't even have pictures. Yeah. Right? And so it'll just be a picture of a wall or a picture of whatever. So you're not seeing the other person's face that you're supposed to be communicating with. And things get way fucked up.
That's why I don't like send like a lot of snaps. Like picture snaps. If I'm taking a picture, it's for me. Mm-hmm. But if I'm Snapchatting somebody, it's either the texting or I'm sending a video, so you can see me, and so you can hear me, and then I can see you, and I can hear you.
Right. So the last one is, don't assume you know it all. Do your best to answer her questions, keeping in mind that the better she knows and trusts you, the harder they'll be. The question, am I going to die, shows great trust. Don't gloss over the truth. But if you can honestly offer a glimmer of hope, give your patient this gift. This one really hit home for me. Because in my personal life, I have never lied to you guys.
No.
Right? And that was the rule. Was I wasn't going to lie to you guys because I'd grown up with all this other bullshit and all these other stories that were told that weren't true. And then later on, like, I questioned everything, and I was like, no, my kids are never going to experience this. So I have never lied to you, right?
Even if it's about Santa.
Even if it's about Santa or the Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy. Okay? I remember you guys found out about the Tooth Fairy because
this bitch...
I was so busy. I was traveling in Carbon County 3 nights a week. I was traveling all over Laramie when I was in town, and then I was catching up on cases, and I had 40 at least cases that I had to go over when I was in the office, plus handling phone calls. So I was busy. I was running 2 different programs. I was traveling all the time, plus attending like all of your school events and trying to keep the house clean and food in the house and so many things. And there was one night that she lost a tooth, and I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I remember that. Didn't remember that, right? So then you had asked about it the following morning, and I was like, oh my God, like, she didn't come? That's weird. Okay, all right, well, we'll give it another night and see if she shows up. And you're like, okay. And I'm like, well, where is it? So if she asks, I know where to tell her. She's like, oh, it's here. And I'm like, okay. So I go in there later and couldn't find it. So I'm assuming you hid it somewhere else.
Yeah, because I was like, I know this bitch. Nah.
So there was another night, and I'm like, yeah, and you're like, the Tooth Fairy still again, and you're in tears. The Tooth Fairy still didn't come. And I'm like, you know what? She's Mexican. She late. She always late. So it's okay. It's like, don't take it personal. It's fine.
She's on CPT.
Yeah. So that was when you started to really question, and that was like where I had fucked up, right? That was kind of how you guys found out about Santa Claus too, and Anthony was the one that was like, you lied to me. And I'm like, no.
I was.
No, you were the one?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, no. Think. Really, really, really think. Who told you about Santa? Because it wasn't ever me.
Yeah.
Did you ever ask me
if Santa was real?
Nope. And so that was when you guys started to learn that I answer every question if you ask me a direct question.
Yeah.
Right? Because you guys were like, oh, like, I learned that from school, or I learned that from my friends, or I learned that from Grandma Laura, or Ramon,
whoever.
or Mina, or, whoever. Like, everybody else told me all of these things.
Right.
But Mom never said that was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't. I'm like, all right. And I would always turn the question back. Well, what do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Why do you think that? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'm like 3.
And it was a way for me to get out of telling you the truth without actually telling you the truth. Yeah. But still kind of keeping that magic alive.
And it's a way to also think for yourself.
Right.
Okay, well, I heard this and this and this. So I started to believe it.
Right.
But what are these other people?
Right.
Who are these other people? And
right.
What do they mean to me? And why do I believe them?
And I saw that switch in your guys' brain every time that you guys, like, came at me. Because you'd started, Anthony was like, hey, like, yeah, like you said. And I'm like, no, I didn't think about it. Really think about it.
I'm like, oh.
And so you guys would be like,
yeah.
And then it would click. You would see it. You'd see it click.
Yeah. Right down. That's cool.
Yeah. And that was a hard lesson for you guys. Mm-hmm. But it was fun on the parent side to watch that whole process really come around.
Because I remember finding the wrapping paper.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So we're in the Laramie apartment, and this was like the first really big Christmas that we had. And so I had wrapped this big old TV and the Wii and the the Blu-ray player, because that was when Blu-ray players like were huge, and they had a whole bunch of toys, and we had this little tree, you know, and so we had to have everything like propped up against like all of these things because they were really big packages, and I was like super like so stoked, like I'm totally good to go, right? And then I hear the kids waking up, and I'm like, fuck, right? So I'm like grabbing everything, I'm throwing everything in the trash, and they're starting to come out of this short hallway, and I'm like, fuck, and so I just threw the wrapping paper in the back of the couch. We're good, right? I'm set.
Yep. No,
okay.
we were good for about a few weeks. Okay, and then this bitch
It was
moved.
that day, though. No, it was that day because you guys were like ripping everything apart because you're like, oh my god. And Anthony was like looking at the TV box. Oh, this is wow.
He's so weird,
right? And I'm like, 1, 2, 3, go, right?
Yeah.
Paper flying everywhere, right? Like you guys were ripping stuff apart, and I am just like watching it, and my heart is so full as I'm watching you guys just like open up all these presents, because there had been so many years that we couldn't have Christmas, right? Mm-hmm. So this was such a big deal for me, and you guys were just ripping, you know, paper apart, and you guys are just having the time of your lives, and your smiles are as big as your face, and you guys are laughing, and you guys are like, oh my god, like look at all these things, and it was so amazing to watch, and it gets me.
Yeah.
It gets me. So I'm like, okay guys, like we really need to clean this up, because I think we had to go do laundry.
No, I think we were going...
No, we were leaving. We were headed to Cheyenne?
Yeah, to go to Nana's for Christmas.
Okay, yeah.
And so we had to clean up. And we were trying to clean up wrapping paper.
Right.
And then we grabbed
all everywhere
of the wrapping paper and the rest in the house. And I'm like, oh, Anthony, there's wrapping paper there. And then we grab them, and there's all 3 wrapping paper.
And I'm like...
And we're all... Mom...
During the headlights, like, I'm like, fuck. What do I say? What do I say? Well, our couch, we had this huge window on, like, that whole side of our living room in our apartment, and our couch was, like, right underneath it. And we would sit on it backwards and watch the lightning, because we always had lightning storms in Laramie. And so I was like, oh, he must have dropped it going out the window.
And we believed it. We're like, oh, that's so cool, Mom.
Right?
That's so cool. What?
Yeah, like, that was when Anthony started to realize, he was like, there's screens on the window, Mom.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. I was like, whoa! Okay. Fucking satisfied as shit. Anthony's all...
In a minute.
And he's super smart. And I was just such this naive kid where I'd believe anything that was said to me. And so I'm like, yeah, no, that's cool. That's so cool. What?
Yeah. Yeah, so the next year was when Anthony had asked me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, what do you think? And he's like, no, Mom. Like, I need you to tell me. And I'm like, okay. Like, here we go. And then I was like, if you fuck this up for your sister, you're not getting anything.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay.
Yep. And nothing said sense.
Nothing was said. He never mentioned it to you. Nothing. He's like, nah, I'm not getting no present. Like, no.
Yeah. He's like, well, what do you think? And I'm like, well, here's what I think.
Okay. Yeah.
He's like, why don't you go ask Mom? Bruh.
I see the same thing. Yeah, so I really think these are some real big questions to really keep in mind for any relationship that you have.
So, hang on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, do you remember that dream that I told you about where... Okay, hang on.
Yeah,
so,
going back, take 2.
I had this dream of... I was in the hospital for something. I don't know what it was. And... me and Anthony being Anthony, we were in the hospital, and Anthony was like, I have a genius idea, because we're bored as fuck, right? And he's like, let's throw knives at each other. Yes. So here we are, throwing knives at each other. And everything was fine. And then I had a knife get stuck in my throat, right across my throat. And I remember telling Anthony, was like, I need you to go get a nurse. I need you to go get somebody. And I, like, held his hand, and I was like, I love you so much. He's like, no, you're fine. I'll be right back. I was like, okay. And then the nurse comes running in, and she was like, okay, we have to take you into surgery right now. And I remember I looked at her, and I grabbed her hand, and I looked at her, and I said, am I going to die? She's like, no, you're fine. We'll you're going to be okay. And I said, no, am I going to die? And she said, yeah. Mm-hmm. And that was terrifying to wake up to. And it really took me aback a second, and I was like, one, what the fuck were we doing throwing knives at each other? Okay?
I'm so glad that that's, like, your first laugh.
Yeah, and, like, two, like, as much as me and Anthony get into it, I genuinely have so much love for him. Mm-hmm. And that instant moment of my life could end at any second. Mm-hmm. Any second. Mm-hmm. Is so real.
Yeah. When I was working for the state, I have sticky notes on every project that I'm working on, like where I'm at and where my thought process is going, and ideas and stuff. So anybody could walk into my office, no matter what job I'm at, even in this work, and know exactly where I'm at and know where things are. And I have told every employer that I've had about that. And they're like, well, why do you do that? And when I was working for the state, one of my old bosses was like, imagine a Mack truck for everybody. You'd be walking down the street, you get hit by a Mack truck.
Yeah.
Okay?
Somebody could come in and pick up your job instantly.
Yeah. And nobody else would have to pay for that. Yeah. Right? And so that's kind of how I live my life, you probably would be most suited to, because you know how and understand like how my thought process works a little bit more since we work on this together.
Mm-hmm. We work on a lot of things together.
We do work on a lot of things together. But like you can pick up my planner and know exactly my appointments and who I talk to, and you can pick up my phone and be like, oh, well, they were talking about this and they were working on this. Like could pick my life up tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of people, just on a scroll note here, this will be a whole nother episode later on down the road. I was reading this book because I was like, I'm just going to read a book for fun. Of course, it can never be just for fun, right? And it was this book that I picked up, I think at Goodwill, and it was Letters to Me. And it was like wisdom from your older self to your younger self. Mm-hmm. And it was talking about how the author's mom had passed away, and she didn't really know about her mom's life.
That's so crazy to me.
And then I think, then we had the conversation yesterday about parenting, and I'm like, how many kids out there do not know who their parents are? I mean, like, genuinely know who their parents are.
Yeah.
And I'm like, have I told Mama enough? Like, does she know enough? Like, does she feel like that she knows me well enough to be able to see, like, yeah, I know who my mom was, and she was this and this and this, both good and bad things, and will she do that with her kids? And so I went on this whole thing, right, in my brain about that, and I think that we talk enough and we know enough about each other's lives that is ingrained, that is important to us, that you know about my life, because those are lessons that you shouldn't have to learn by yourself.
Right.
And I think that's super helpful. And I mean, that's part of the reason for this podcast, is to be able to get that wisdom out to the people that don't have those significant others or those, support systems and stuff, and to start these conversations is the second reason on why this is. But all of these conversations are super important. These 6 tips, as simple as they are very profound.
Yeah.
With every relationship, work, siblings, coworkers, oh my gosh, parents and kids, husbands and wives, coworkers, and just business partners. Like these are, I use all of these with Shauna. I messaged Shauna last night and was like, she said thank you, for inviting us to the movie, because we went to the movies yesterday. And, she's like, thank you for inviting us, me to the movies. It was really nice to just get out and do something. And I'm like, it was really nice to spend time together as friends, not as directors.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, I had forgotten how that is, because we talked about it, and the last time we had seen a movie together was 2017. That was how many years ago? And I'm like, that's not okay. That's not okay. That we get so wrapped up in
being business partners.
Yeah, being business partners. And how is it? It's the same thing with husband and wives. They get so wrapped up in being parents that they forget that they're husband and wives.
Yeah.
We get wrapped up in being parents that we forget that we need to be support systems for our kids.
Yeah.
And I think once you get a job, it's like, okay, that's it and that's all. But it's not.
Right.
It's not. And so I think that's super important.
Yeah.
So just as, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Just as a wrap up, can you tell me something that you have learned from someone younger than you?
I've been trying to think about this since last night.
Yeah. I'll go first.
Okay.
I have learned so much about myself from being a parent.
Yeah.
Right? I learned about different actions and behaviors that I have. I didn't know until I think you or Anthony pointed out that when I'm deep in thought, I stick my tongue out.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Just the other day, you learned that you talk to yourself.
Yeah. I went into fucking Little Caesars. And you had asked me to get you a Dr. Pepper. And I think all of this happens in my mind, and apparently it doesn't. And so I go in there, and I'm like, oh my God, there's no Dr. Pepper here. No, wait, that's a Diet Dr. Pepper. She's not going to want the diet. Okay, well, is there? Nope, there's 2 liters over in that one. Okay, so what else is she going to want? No, I think she didn't say she wanted anything else. Okay, maybe I'm just not looking down enough. And so I'm like having this whole conversation with myself, right, in my brain, not realizing that I'm mouthing the words until a customer pointed out to me. And he was like, hey, you can't come up in here talking to yourself. Yeah. And I'm like, what are you talking about, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, you're over there like mouthing words while you're in the refrigerator. And I'm like, oh shit. Like I had no idea. And it's just my thought process, right? Like, okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. And yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. And so I come out and I'd asked you if I do that, and you're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, bruh, like,
just let her do her thing.
Here I am, looking like a crazy person in Walmart, like, what the fuck, right? Like,
I'm like, everybody just give her 5. She'll be fine.
Just let her sort it out, it's fine. I had no idea that I did that. And so I'm still learning things about myself. And generally it's from somebody younger than me. I learn so much with each new client that I work with. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
So I have learned a lot from my little sister.
Yeah? Yeah? Oh, Ryan. I love
Miss
her so
Ryan.
much.
She's
so
a little
amazing.
crazy bitch. And she's definitely me.
Yes, she is.
Oh my God.
Is that your knee? Good Lord. I thought you broke the thing off of the pen.
Nope.
Oh, it was just your knee. Okay. All right.
She has taught me so much about the dad that we share. And I'm not gonna really go into that because that's another story for another time. But, like,
Your makeup looks great today, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I just scroll moment.
She was able to, and granted she was young when it happened, but she was able to move on and be like, I have a new dad now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it breaks my heart every time she calls her new dad dad. You know what I mean? Because I'm like...
But it is.
Yeah.
But
that's
he
her
is.
dad.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
And as much as I dislike him.
Yeah.
For just him. But that's her dad.
Yeah.
And I will forever be grateful for him because he stepped up.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of our dad stepping up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that she didn't have to go through that hurt that I went through. I always prayed that I would continue to go through that. I would always tell everybody that I would continue to go through that hurt so she didn't have to.
Right.
So he would just focus on me and not her.
Right.
And how is that fair to me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not fair to her, but I was okay with taking that hurt, and I still am okay with taking that hurt so it wouldn't hurt her.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Have you learned anything from the younger generation?
No, I don't like young people. I don't talk to no. I've always hung out with people older than me.
Right.
I'm always the baby.
Right. Same.
So.
Same. I am the youngest person on our board for Underground. And I find that real fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, because I learned so much from the older people, but I also learned so much from the younger generation. Like this Generation Alpha that's coming up, as much as I dislike their work ethic, but I learn a lot about their work ethic. You know, they really have put their priorities into themselves as opposed to working for somebody else, and have thought of these genius ideas on, you know, how to make wealth without having to do the conventional things that my generation was brought up with. I also love how they are strong advocates for what they think is right and wrong. And I love that. Now, while I may not agree with what they're arguing for, just the passion,
or the way that they're doing it.
The passion that they have in those, you know, social issues is, I'm just like, wow, that is amazing.
Well,
you know?
So with our generation, with Gen Z, like, we'll sell your shit.
Yeah, dude. Like that Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden his credit card information was online. And I was like, damn. All right. I mean,
so
you kind of deserve that though, bro.
We do not care.
Yeah, you guys find it brutal.
Yeah.
And
we're mean.
But you're not very combative about it, you know?
We don't like confrontation.
Yeah, which is crazy because we're like, oh, meet us outside, like, for real. Yeah. Like, we just talked about that. Like, when we say it's on site, it really is on site. Yeah. Like, there's no conversation.
We don't really do that. We say it's on site, but we're going to be like, I'm going to pretend to be your friend, and then I'm going to whoop your ass.
Right. Yeah, no, that's not what we do. And so,
like, we don't really like confrontation, but once you start the confrontation, you're fucked. Right,
because then you guys, like, go, like, above and beyond.
We're deep.
Like, I mean, the level of pettiness you guys have, I'm like, okay, yeah, like, I could totally get why you're mad, but damn, like, you did all that like that. We just don't have enough effort for that. Like, we're just still trying to be in the background, and we're just like, nah, that's cool. Like, we'll just, you know, it's whatever. Like, and we're like,
we're gonna sell your house,
like,
and your credit card stuff.
Yeah, so it's just wild to me. So just learning from the different generations, and that's also part of the reason why we have this show is, you know, that we, as much as we're different,
we're very much alike.
We're very, very much alike. Yeah, for sure. So, all right. Well, just as a wrap up, we want to thank Justin Bragg for being a sponsor. Thank you for joining us for this episode. I really liked this episode. I think we covered a lot of different stories. Join us for our next episode where we talk about segregation. That is going to be a pretty intense one. I can't remember the particular article, but this one comes up with the House of Night as they're trying to
don't spoil it already.
Live, right? You know, the separate and covering the marks and how they have to remain separate, and, you know, it's a big thing. And do we do that now? Yeah. You know?
Never mind. I'll talk about that.
Yeah. Save it. Don't go. So, any questions, comments, concerns, email or message on YouTube or any of our social medias. We've got TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Our email is smilegirldon'tbenervous@gmail.com. No punctuations, all one word. Feel free to contact us on our phones. We are always looking for speakers. Since we have the studio, we can do last minute speakers. So if you call me and say, hey, I want to be a speaker, and be like, all right, we're recording Sunday at 10. So give us a holler, let us know. Also, please share the episodes. We are trying to grow our channel. We're trying to get the word out for more people. We have big dreams for this channel, and we can't do it without you viewers. Also, lots of comments need to be put on these videos. There's only been a couple of comments on all of the videos that we've uploaded. Tell us your story about what you have learned about the younger generation. We'd really like to hear it. I think I am all about wisdom. I was trying to write a book on wisdom called Infinite Wisdom or Impart Wisdom.
There you go.
So, let us know what you've got. Let us know what you think the society needs to know. I'd really love to share those ideas. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate having you here. Come see us next week, and we love you so very much. All right. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.